Hello, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. I'd like, first of all, to thank the organizers of this conference for organizing the Best Student Paper competition. Let me start by saying a few words about myself. My name is Rui Zhu, and I'm a PhD candidate of Industrial Engineering at the Penn State University. The topic of my presentation today is optimal resource allocation for coverage control of city crimes. This is a joint work with Dr. Aqlan and my advisor, Dr. Yang. This presentation is structured as follows: research motivation, methodology, experimental design and results, and the conclusions. I'll start off by the research motivation, then I'll move on to the methodology. After this, I'll be looking at the experimental design and results, then conclusions. As the complexity and the challenge of the world grow, drug abuse, large population, shifting demographics, and advanced technologies bring more complicated criminal situations. Current law enforcement strategies can deal with a large scale of crimes. The decline of the crimes in the United States is a positive sign for the safety of all citizens, and it is credit to the effective law enforcement strategies. However, due to the changing scale and nature of criminal activities, there would be insufficient people and support to scale up previous efforts achieved by traditional approaches. As every second counts in the crisis, limited law enforcement resources pose significant challenges to effectively and efficiently protect the city. Therefore, current situations of crimes call for new strategies of the law enforcement allocation to achieve faster responses, reduce the costs, and highly efficient operations. In the United States, crimes are classified into two main categories: violent crimes and property crimes. Violent crimes consist of assault, robbery, rape, and murder. Property crimes consist burglary and theft. This figure shows the crime rates corresponding to various types of crimes from 1981 to 2018 in the United States. The estimated number of the violent crimes was more than 1.2 million in 2018, and the estimated number of property crimes was over 7 million and resulted in loss of around $16 billion. Law enforcement officers call for better strategies that can help control and reduce crimes in the United States. As the fourth largest city of Pennsylvania, Erie has a relatively low crime rate compared to other large cities in New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. However, as shown in this figure, Erie crime rate is higher when compared to the national average, which is because of economic factors that plague the city, as well as the limited law enforcement resources. In 2003, the number of officers in Erie is 214. This number decreased to 161 officers in 2016. The decrement resulted in Erie reaching its highest crime rate in 2008. Even in 2018, the crime rate in Erie was still higher than rates of most US cities. In this paper, we developed a new optimal learning algorithm to characterize multi-scale distributions of crimes, and then determine an optimal policy for coverage control of city crimes. First, we categorize crimes into three severity levels: Then we characterize and model crime distributions for different severity levels. We develop an optimal policy for coverage control to allocate limited resources of law enforcement in areas of interest. Crimes are characterized into low, medium, and high severity levels. This figure shows the distributions of crimes at different severity levels. The crime density varies from low to high as the color changes from light to dark. The low severity level includes crimes such as theft, abandoned vehicle, and burglary without force. Medium severity level includes drunkenness, disorderly conduct, and burglary with force. High severity level involves missing person, assault, and aggravated assault by prisoner. The proposed algorithm is implemented to cover and control crimes based on the crime distributions with constrained resources. In this figure, omega is a convex space with information density following Gaussian distribution. If we only have one law enforcement agent, theta I, to control this region, intuitively, we will place the agent at the location with the highest density to minimize information loss. This formula gives the information loss for infinite points on the space omega. D is a distance function between the agent theta I and the location S on the space omega. Sigma S is the information density at the location S, which is the density of crimes in this paper. Let's think about this further. If we have multiple agents and a complex distribution on space omega as shown in the figure, then we need to divide the space omega into multiple regions and place one agent in each region. The objective is to minimize the total information loss through determining optimal tessellation and the locations of agents. Theta is the agent side, and omega is the tessellation. N is the total number of agents. Given a space omega, Voronoi region Vi is defined by a cluster of points S that are closest to theta I. This definition guarantees that all crime locations S in Vi are the closest to agent theta I. Therefore, the optimal tessellation for space omega is Voronoi tessellation. The tessellation in the objective function is then replaced with Voronoi tessellation V. The polar moment of inertia about the agent location is computed as J theta I. If we set the distance function as squared L2 norm, the objective function can be reformulated as summation of G theta I. According to the parallel axis theorem, we can substitute J theta I in the objective function with polar moment of inertia about centroid of Voronoi region, plus the mass of region times squared L2 norm. From this equation, we can see that the objective function is minimized when agent theta I is located at the centroid of Voronoi region. An optimal learning algorithm is proposed for agents to search for optimal locations. This is a formula that agent's movement follows. Assume the agent's movement obeys the first order dynamical behavior. The agents converge asymptotically to their optimal locations following this equation. In the experiment, we designed a three-way layout experiment to test the performance of proposed algorithm. First, crimes are categorized into low, medium, high severity levels. Second, limited resources of law enforcement are allocated with the proposed algorithm, which includes sightings of 8, 12, 20 agents. Third, to evaluate the effectiveness and the efficiency of the proposed algorithm, we measure the performance based on the response time of an agent to reach crime scenes and benchmark with both zone random patrol and uniform allocation of law enforcement. We use 12 agent allocation to demonstrate performance of proposed algorithm. The first row in this figure shows the crime distribution of 3 severity levels. Second row gives the optimal locations of 12 agents. Routes of 12 agents from random starting locations, which represented by black dots, to the optimal locations, which are represented by the red dots, are shown in the third row. It is noted that optimal allocation of law enforcement agents varies depending on the distributions of crimes. Agents are likely to move towards the area with high crime density. Response time of an agent to reach crimes within its corresponding regions is a key metric to quantify the performance of proposed algorithm. In the performance metric, capital TR is the response time of one agent to reach all crimes within its corresponding Voronoi region. C gamma represents the crime. MI is the total number of crimes in the ith region, and the TR is the time it takes for a law enforcement agent to travel a unit distance. The performance of optimal resource allocation is benchmarked with zone random patrol and uniform allocation. Zone random patrol is very common in existing patrols. In zone random patrol, Erie is divided into 2 zones, and half of agents are randomly allocated in each zone. In uniform allocation, all agents are uniformly allocated in the whole area. As shown in the below table, response times of agents from optimal locations to crime scenes are much shorter than from zone random patrol and uniform allocation, which means agents give faster responses to crimes with the proposed algorithm. Further, the response time of an individual agent is shorter if we increase the number of agents. In conclusion, as the scale and the nature of crimes become more and more complex, resources of law enforcement become insufficient. Protecting citizens through effective and efficient strategies therefore becomes a challenging task, especially when the law enforcement resource is constrained. Based on all these challenges we are facing, we developed a new optimal learning algorithm to characterize multi-scale distributions of crimes, and then determine an optimal policy for coverage control of city crimes with constrained resources. This work is supported in part by NSF grant. The authors thank the Erie Police Department for sharing the crime information used in this research. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, I'll be happy to answer them.